You may have an idea of what question I'm about to ask you. I'll give you a second to figure it out. I don't know if you can see well enough to see out there. But is this glass half empty, or is it half full? This, of course, is a rhetorical question in this moment, partially because I can't hear many of you. But surely you've had this conversation before at some point in your life. And it often becomes a question of, who are you? Are you a glass half full person? Are you an optimist? Or are you a glass half empty person, a pessimist? Some assert that how you answer this question says something about who you are and how you are in the world. But this is not a Jewish question. Judaism asks that we be present and hold both halves together at the same time. We can feel full or fulfilled in some ways, while also feeling empty in other ways. We can be stressed from the pressure of work, but also find joy in the quiet of home. We can feel empty in the face of loss, but feel filled with love from the community that supports us in that loss. Our holy day symbols beautifully represent this idea. From Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur, I feel you're going to see me coming up and down a few times here. From Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur, we have the shofar. And just before Rosh Hashanah, Rabbi Susan Abramson shared the following. She said, "This year I feel like a shofar, hardened on the outside and hollow on the inside. During the time of year in which we are to soften our hearts, to take down our walls in order to make teshuvah, repentance, in order to return to who we have the potential to be, we use this symbol of hardness and emptiness, perhaps to remind us that we too have become hardened. We too have become hollow, empty, burnt out, and run down since last High Holy Day season. When we apply our life force, our breath to it, the sound it makes is loud and stirring, disruptive and jarring. It calls attention to the difficult, the unpleasant, but also the possibility of painful change. The shofar is empty, but it fills our ears with sound. On Yom Kippur, we commit ourselves to being empty. On the physical side, of course, we're empty of nourishment if we're fasting. And on the spiritual side, we're emptying ourselves of arrogance and haughtiness. Also on Yom Kippur, we commit ourselves to being filled. We allow the music to move us and fill us, the words of the liturgy to hold us and support us, and general engagement with the day to make us feel spiritually full, even if physically empty. In a few days from now, we will enter Sukkot, another holiday full of powerful symbols. We move from the hardness of the shofar to the softness of the lulav, moving from one symbol to four in one. The lulav, made up of myrtle and willow and palm and etrog, held together, represents many things, including the bounty, the fullness of the harvest of this harvest festival. However, taken apart, any one piece, when it's taken apart, they become either full or empty or half of what they were. The palm and lulav, it is said, has taste but no smell. The myrtle, the hadass, has smell but no taste. The willow, arava, has neither taste nor smell, and the etrog has both taste and smell. Apart, they are said in mystical tradition to represent different parts of our bodies, our heart, our eyes, our lips, our spine. But held together, it represents our whole self. But it is this symbol in conjunction with the sukkah, that really highlights fullness and emptiness. A sukkah must be open on one side, and the roof must protect you somewhat from the elements, but you must still be able to see the stars. But it is empty. Rabbi Alan Liu, in his book about approaching the High Holy Days, This is real, and you are completely unprepared. Writes regarding Sukkot. So now we sit flush with the world in a house that calls attention to the fact that it gives us no shelter. It is not really a house. It is the interrupted idea of a house, he says, a parody of a house. The sukkah exposes the idea that a house is an illusion. The idea of a house is that it gives us security and shelter, haven from the storm. But no house can really offer us this. No building of wood and stone can ever afford us protection from the disorder that is always lurking around us. No shell we put between us and the world can ever really keep us secure from it. And we know this. We never really believed in the illusion. There is an emptiness that can come from realizing we are flush with life, that we are unprotected, that we are vulnerable. And Sukkot reminds us we are open, we are empty. So why all of these mixed metaphors and symbols for our slew of celebrations? Perhaps to teach us that in Judaism, we don't talk about whether or not the glass is half full or half empty, but rather we see the glass how it is. It has both emptiness and fullness, and sometimes it even depends on the moment. The Jewish response to the question, is the glass half empty or half full, is both. The top half is empty, the bottom half is full. Both truths exist at the same time. We are strong, yet we are weak. We are free, yet we are in bondage. We are full, we are heavy with grief, but we can hold joy. The glass is both half full and half empty. To put it another way, there is a story told that I shared with Teen Team yesterday of Rabbi Simcha Bunim of Peshishka, who taught his disciples that every person must have two pockets, with a note in each pocket so that he or she or they can reach into one or the other, depending on the need. When feeling lowly and depressed, discouraged or disconsolate, or empty, one should reach into the right pocket and there find the words, Bishvili nivra ha'olam. The whole world was created for my sake. We read these words to lift us up, to fill us when we feel empty. But when feeling high and mighty or full, and especially full of oneself, he teaches one should reach into the left pocket and find the words, Anochi afar va'efer. I am only dust and ashes. Sometimes we can feel too full and need to be reminded to feel a little more empty. There are moments in life when we are meant to feel full as though the world were created for our sake, and there are moments when we are meant to feel empty as though we are only dust and ashes. But most times, we need to feel both at the same time. We are both full and empty at once. Sukkot is a season to connect with our senses. In a few days, we will physically build our sukkah. We will hear the sound of that lulav shaking. We will smell the etrog. We will taste meals we eat in the sukkah. And we'll see the world around us, for we will be outside. Our senses are a way for us to take in the world around us, each offering a way to process our surroundings, our life, the way we live. But it is also a lesson on how to be present and how to begin to fill up our empty selves again. Holding a hand or a hug can renew you. Listening to moving music can stir your soul. Witnessing the beauty in the world can remind you of your place in it. Tasting something delicious can give you strength. Smelling the flowers, literally, can fill you with a sense of peace. No matter how empty or full we may feel, this season is dedicated to rebuilding, literally as we rebuild the sukkah this year, but also rebuilding ourselves and our spirits. And our senses are one way to do just that. This is what Sukkot reminds us. So is the glass half empty, or is it half full? We are only dust and ashes. For our sake, the world was created. We are both empty and full. And still, the work of our hearts is to make us ready to receive, no matter which one we are. Ken Yehi Ratzon. May this be God's will.